Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Geraci, and I'm back with comics for my spinner rack. I got a nice diverse amount of comics. I got, well, a DC, two indies, and two Marvel comics. So let's start with The Weird, written by Jim Starlin, penciled by Bernie Wrightson, and inked by Dan Green. My problem with this miniseries is the first issue started off with the Justice League prominently featured on the cover, and there was a lot of suggestion that this character, this storyline would involve the Justice League, but they're very much peripheral characters. I think maybe some editor said, well, we got to put the JLA in there too, because they have resurged in popularity due to Keith Giffen, J.M. DeMatteis, and Kevin Maguire. So it's odd, but you know what? It's also kind of cool. And what's interesting too is Bernie Wrightson, Dan Green's inks over his stuff are a lot softer, or not softer, they're thinner. And there we go. Wrightson must have colored his own work. It's just not beefy inks like you usually see with the heavy shadows on Bernie Wrightson stuff. But see, now here's the Justice League on the outside looking in, and I never understood that Manhunter book. I wonder if people like that. So you get a little bit of Guy Gardner acting like a dick, and there's a force field around the battle area between the Weird and the other guy, and that's a very Wrightson figure there with Batman. But all they do really is hang out and kind of keep order around this battle between these two, and some really nice stuff. Really, it's interesting to see like a lighter hand inking Wrightson. And Green's doing a good job on it. So we get the origin, la 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 la. It is fun. I did read it and I enjoyed it. So this guy's basically a nihilist. He had a shitty life. He turned to alcohol. He turned to all his life experiences prior to that were just one series of terrible luck after another. So he just wants to take the universe with him. That's basically it. I love this guy's design. He's got that big wonky eye. I kind of wonder if Starlin designed him because it has a Ditko look to it. And Starlin loves Ditko. Naked Man coming through, Naked Man. So, see, it's all done, and the Justice League are just sort of there. So it's a bit of a bait and switch. Boy, that's awful. You know what's funny? I bet you the artwork was like this big and they blew it up really large because look how thick everything is. It looks like animation cells, but not nearly as interesting. And Dave Hoover does better work than that, as does Robert Caminella. But I don't know what they were thinking by zooming in. They could have done a collage or something. The Wanderers. So apparently the Weird killed his opponent, and now Batman wants this guy to go to jail for it. Some former president. I love that. Him materializing from, what would you call it? Turning off his visibility. So, here comes Nucleo and Superman Possessed. So, it's really a letdown. It's fun, but don't, if you see the first issue, expect it's a Justice League story. It's like not even Justice League adjacent. So here's Futurians by Dave Cockrum. It started off with Marvel's graphic novels when Marvel started doing them in 1982 with Jim Starlin doing The Death of Captain Marvel, and a few issues later Dread Star, as well as the New Mutants, and a whole bunch Star Slammers by Walt Simonson. Well, eventually, like with 12 or 14, they did the Futurians, which is Dave Cockrum's sort of take on the X-Men, although the origins are not the same, but it's really beautiful art. Really beautiful. And it's published by, it actually doesn't say. It's so funny, I looked this up and down, and I could not find any edition that suggested it. But, you know, he has, Cockrum has his template characters that are kind of based loosely on the X-Men, because you know he designed more than half of the original the all new, all different X-Men. Now here's my problem. It's a first issue. You had a graphic novel that really laid the groundwork. So all of this really, it just kind of puts you on hold. It just kind of kills any momentum you might possibly get. And there's a lot of yammering. And then there's like action that sort of almost breaks out, but not quite. I mean, all this about this, this Phoenix type character. Love the design. Surprised she doesn't have a sash. Cockrum loved putting a sash on his female characters' costumes. And it's very dense in story, which I applaud, but you did so much establishing. You established the hell out of these characters in the graphic novel, so why re-establish stuff? And I love these costumes. They're kind of wacky. This reminds me of like something Wally Wood would have come up for that guy, his Dr. Zeus. And Ricardo Villagrán is inking, doing a really nice job on it. But then you get the cliffhanger. The thing is, I think this should have opened the book. Invite the people in. Don't have a cool splash and then blah 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 blah, because it's stopping somebody from going on. See, he's having a fit there. It quickly ends. It's quickly resolved. So I really didn't enjoy this as much as I wanted to. So, okay, the Silver Sufferer. That's what we used to call him when we were kids, because the only books he had were the original 18 issues from the late 60s. And he would whine and whine and whine about Galactus's barrier and how he was stuck on Earth with people who despise him. So this is issue 13. Marshall Rogers left this book fairly early. And I don't know if it was because it was a monthly deal. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know the background story on it, but this is a Rich Buckler and Joe Rubinstein cover, which is interesting because Buckler was sort of out of the picture for first half of the 80s. He was doing a lot of the Red Circle comics. He did Blackthorn comics. He did Soulson comics. He did a little of this and that. The art is by Joe Staton, Dave Cockrum on the inks. How about that? That's pretty cool. So you got Ronan. And he's taking out some of these Kree that he doesn't like for a lot of reasons. But I gotta tell you, this was perhaps the shittiest event ever. I remember picking up one annual. It might have been the Avengers annual, because it had like the Beast and it had Falcon and it had the Beast that with the brown and yellow suit from X Factor. But they actually have an omnibus of this, and the books they reprinted are so awful. It just wasn't thought out very well. Like Atlantis Attacks would come out a year or two, and it was actually pretty good. But the omnibus of this, they should be giving it away at like, Ollie's or some other stuff. There's Nova, Frankie Ray, nice easy page. I'd love to do that. There's no stars. I don't know why, but I don't care. But he's fallen in love with Mantis since he hadn't been able to. He went back to Zen La Di Da, but it was very complicated. But here comes Ronan and I accuse. So they start this battle, and wordless battle at that. It's a little odd. It's just not bombastic. I don't know why, because Joe Staton's usually much more engaging. So you get the Kree and the Skrulls acting up again. These crazy people. I really hope Pat Redding doesn't look like that. It's a friggin' cool sketch. So he meets the other Silver Surfer. So it's okay, but there's no drama. He just shows up and, hey, I'm the true Silver Surfer. So big letdown there. Scorpio Rose. This is a gorgeous comic, but it probably failed spectacularly because it did not have anybody punching anybody. It didn't have superheroes, and it had artwork that was like spun in glass. That was just perfect, where you could draw anything and it would look great. But the stories themselves, with the design and such, they don't lend themselves to how can I move it? Like there's not a lot of kinetic energy, I guess, that's in the usual comic book. Nonetheless, I like it a lot. How about that, Dr. Orient? And it's a passion project by the people who brought you Batman, the Batman, Mr. Miracle, Madame Xanadu, Coyote, and now Scorpio Rose by Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers, with the legendary Tom Palmer for color and embellishment. Tom Palmer, where do you see the difference this makes? I mean, because you used to seeing Terry Austin or somebody else ink it, and you got Orzechowski. They must, I don't know if they had like exclusive with Marvel or something. Maybe they worked out some deal. But look at those colors. I'm just loving it. This is Eclipse Comics back in 1983. And Eclipse Comics was good for this. They would take chances on stuff like that. And then they would come out with superhero titles that would kind of keep the rest of the line buoyed up. And then they would do trading cards, really crazy kind of trading cards with different subject matters. But really, really cool stuff. There's a couple panels here where you can see Tom Palmer. Look at that, man. Rogers is just really, really putting so much energy into this. And I like the colors a lot. Here we go. This is a Tom Palmer inks over Marshall Rogers. Look how you can just reach out and touch, because he's always had a bit of a removed comic book style when it came to faces. But Palmer just really, really brings it home, makes it his own. This is the whole background I'm not going to get into. Just enjoy the show. Rogers loved to play with sound effects. And more Palmer magic. And the colors are just great. Palmer's doing the colors. That's an overlay where you ink a separate piece of plastic film, frisket. So it's really, really good. But I think this kind of book will like go over the heads of the average Marvel DC fan. It certainly did with me. I mean, I didn't buy it. And mostly because a lot of these indie books are super high quality. They're on Baxter paper, which is very thick and very white. And they go for twice as much. So it's tricky. Especially if you're like a Marvel fan. You keep buying issues of 4 because you're continuing your collection. So, but it's beautiful. Dr. Orient. Now this time you got a Frank Lauria. I don't know him, but brought to you by Frank Lauria and Marshall Rogers. Finished art and coloring by Steve Lee Aloha. Lettered by Tom Orzechowski. And it's really, really interesting. I love seeing people finish off Marshall Rogers on this. Wow. That took some doing. That took some time, baby. Beautiful stuff. So I really recommend it. I love it now, you know, because I can afford it now, and it was only $2. Do you dare cast dice with destiny? See, here's some of their books. Eclipse collection. They have The Masked Man. This full color portfolio by Paul Galassi. Back then, in the early 80s and late 70s, actually, it was kind of the Wild West when it came to portfolios, because you would have characters. You had Michael Golden doing a Doctor Strange portfolio, yet I don't think it was approved by DC, and I doubt this was approved because they would want a lot more money, to the point of being detrimental to try and publish. So that's just so many other characters. So, you know, The Price, graphic novel, Destroyer Duck, Detectives Inc., Night Music, Stuart the Rat, The Variable Syndrome, Dragon Flame, and Mike Mist. So very, very, very diverse subject matter. Now I'm going to get on to something wacky. This came out in, let's see, whoop. This came out in 1984. Now here's an interesting thing. Around this time, I mean, my understanding is Jim Shooter's tenure, it was like 78th to 86 or so. I have a theory that it's almost like having presidential 2 terms, and it's like his first term, I get the impression he really knocked it out of the park. He sparked Marvel, made it exciting again after the morass that was the late 70s. And then like halfway through, when Secret Wars came along in 83 to 84, Jim Shooter got this attitude where he was like, oh, well, it was a huge success because of me. And he wasn't accounting for the fact that you had Mike Zeck, John Beatty, plus it was the first book of its kind where you had all the major heroes battle, this character called the Beyonder for a whole year. Contest of Champions, which preceded this, was simply, it was supposed to be a treasury edition for the Summer Olympics in 1980, but Jimmy Carter canceled it after, I think it had to do with Afghanistan. There was some kind of invasion of troops from the Russians. So he canceled it and it got repurposed. So this Secret Wars was a deliberate attempt. And after that, I get the impression Jim Shooter wasn't the same. He was unapproachable, because I've heard so many good things about Shooter in the early days. And you had fun books like this. If these don't look like people that are not having fun at Marvel Comics. Also, they did a no prize book, which goes back to the 60s, where if you find a fault with something, like let's say, the Human Torch's flame was blue on one panel instead of red, you would write in and say, hey, I got a no prize. And that was like a pun, like you're not really getting a prize. But what you did get is in the mail, you got an empty envelope that said, here's your no prize. And those go for, if they're in good shape, they go for pretty money on the internet, because that was the 60s. So the cover's good because it's on glossy stock. Paul Smith, Cockrum, Al Milgrom, Bill Manilow, Walt Simonson. And it's tremendous fun. And there were so many fun books that came out at this time. So like I said, I just can't see the Marvel Bullpen hating this. It just like they did, what was it? They did Assistant Editors Month, where all the main editors went to San Diego, and just many other things. So the reproduction isn't great because it was the 80s. The Fumetti book. Fumetti is Italian for photo stories, by the way. And there's some fun there. Right over there is Louise Simonson and Archie Goodwin, Mark Gruenwald, Ralph Macchio, Al Milgrom at the bottom. I think Denny O'Neil, and but like I said, it's hard to see. But I mean, you can see it with your eyes better than you can with the screen. And there's Mike Carlin and Mark Gruenwald working on the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, which covered all of this stuff. So they're in a cosmic moment. Is it silly? Yes. But at the time when it came out, I was just like, wow, Marvel's really just having a tremendous fun time. I apologize if it's not clear, but there we go. And the gags are corny, but it's fun. Everybody got into it seems. Two-page spread of Stan. Now here's the thing. This Hulk body was attached to the picture. Stan Lee in the 70s actually took a nude photo on the couch, and he covered his naughty bits with a leg folding over or something. It's crazy. So they decided to do the Hulk over. So probably for the best. And this is Walter Simonson, by day loving husband to Louise Jones, but by night when no one's looking. Oh, Walt draws the mighty Thor. So these like little fun tricks they do on like that kind of effect. They would do like a razor blade and scrape the negatives to get that idea. So, It was so much fun. Inker Dinker Doo. The old comic artist getting yanked into his own story. Ziggy Pig. Oh. There's John Byrne. There's Super Boxers Meet the Futurians by Ron Wilson and Dave Cockrum, respectively. I like the sound effects. God, it was a horrible Hulk, but back then, you know, those costumes were very good. Under Oath, Paul Smith. Well, I'm off to my cross-country bike trip. 3 whole months off. No X-Men to worry about, no Doctor Strange, no Jim Shoo, huh? Roadhog! Well, after this drawing comics is going to be really relaxing. I can hardly wait until... Uh-oh. Sheesh, I hope I have enough dimes to make it to Hawaii. And what's cool is, special effects by Arthur Adams, new kid on the scene. I don't think he did anything drawing-wise in Marvel at that point. But Vince Coletta did the photos, because he was always doing photos. Vince Coletta did photos that were very risque in the 50s and 60s, like for men's sweat magazines, as they call them, which was not out-and-out porn, but just like salacious. What's cool, though, is Paul Smith made enough royalties off of X-Men that he could disappear for 3 months. That's when royalties were like really amazing. You know, Shooter was giving out royalties, so he called them incentives, is what he called them. So again, I don't see how in the early years he was a bad guy, but later on, I've heard tons of stories by other creators where he just kind of went off his nut. And you know, R.I.P. Shooter, but he did make it better to buy more comics for Marvel than before. So that's all, folks. Let me see who else I got in here. Maybe that's... that must be Carl Potts. That's Ralph Macchio, Larry Hama, Al Milgrom. I don't know. I'll think about it in a minute. Grunwald. Carl Potts. Wheezy, Shooter, Archie Goodwin. Is that Denny O'Neil? Yeah, that's Denny O'Neil. So, fun. And I hope you enjoyed this, and check out some of these books. They're pretty cool. This has been reprinted in Epic Collection form. And there's also a Silver Surfer Omnibus that came out. The Futurians really let me down, but I don't know how many issues they lasted, but I just think, you know, backstory was in the graphic novel. And this Weird was okay. I have like 3 out of the 4 issues, but I have no interest in getting the 4th one. But it's fun, it's different, and it's weird. So, anyway, that's about it. I'll try not to be so long between episodes next time. I had to go do my thing, do some art, make a living, and this is just for fun. I ain't taking any money. I'm not doing a Patreon and all that. Nothing against it. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to show off comics because I love comics. All right, everybody, take care.